Season 3 of The Pass is here. I know it's long overdue. We have a new intro. We still got the same content. Well, actually, it's a little bit of new content because there's new things going on in 2019. So buckle up. We got a lot of things to talk about on The Pass. What's going on? What is good? I am so glad and I am so shocked, yet I'm so thrilled that I've hit episode 250. I didn't finagle the numbers. I didn't manipulate any stats. I've just been showing up and showing out. My biggest thing that I had to accept with doing this brand and building this podcast empire of some sort is show up and show out. And I've made that my goal with this recording and with the brand of being a podcaster. So we are officially on episode 250 of The Pass. I am your host, BT. I really hope everyone is doing amazing, phenomenal. You're in a good space, in a good place with life. There's a lot of information to discuss. I know this is probably going to be one of those when you look at the list of articles. There are a lot of articles to talk about. Some of them are going to be kind of quick and simple, but there's a big one that's going to take up a lot of time. And I'm going to kind of give a little bit of a layered story time, I guess you could say, because I didn't even think about it until I was sitting here writing the title out, but it fits for the cause. So we'll get into all that in a bit. If you are looking to get into podcasting, I personally use Spreaker. I did go to a podcast event, and I'll talk about that later on. One of the good hosting sites that was recommended there is Libsyn. Find what works for you. Find what works for your budget, most of all, and just be dedicated. That's the biggest thing that I think people are still learning with podcasting, and I'm still learning that. Everyone's not going to have that same dedication, and you just got to kind of accept that. But that's not what y'all came. Y'all, I mean, that's all cool and that's all great. But y'all want to hear content, so let's go ahead and clip this content and make it rock. So when we last left off, knockout phase had gotten started. I believe France had not played USA yet. There was a big story behind that based on, I think, one of the goals that was scored. I believe VAR came and made its presence again. We're down to our semis. To just kind of give you a quarterfinal round update. England did beat Norway. USA beat France. Netherlands beat Italy. And Sweden beat Germany. I think Sweden beating Germany was the shocker for me personally. I will admit, I thought Japan would have gotten further based on the initial round of 16. But hey, if you don't play, you don't. I mean, if you don't play, you don't continue. So now we're left with our semifinal. Women's Final Four, you could call it. England will be playing USA on tomorrow, which will be the 2nd at 3. And at the same time, you'll have Netherlands playing Sweden. And both of those matches will be going on. So I'm going to take my bold prediction on both. I feel like it's going to be, I personally think that USA and Sweden are going to be your championship match. And as far as the third place match, England will likely beat the Netherlands. England's a tough team, like, let's be clear, but I'm just, this is one of those few moments where I can kind of get away with saying I'm rooting for the home squad. So just speaking it as I've seen it. So that is our quick talk, quick rundown of the Women's World Cup. We're going to press on and hop into week 2 of the Big Three. And their page is still a mess. I guess I still got to learn how to maneuver it. First and foremost, because I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way now, Joe Johnson enjoys this league. I can tell from how he plays, he's going to be very comfortable in his element. of playing. And I mentioned this week 1, but week 2 I really got to saw it. I got to see it firsthand in a lot of his movement and the way he's playing. They did beat Trilogy 51-41, which actually put Trilogy at 0-2, which is going to be really important, especially starting off this upcoming season. The enemies made up for last week's loss against Bouvayac. They beat the Ball Hogs 50-45 on of all things, it was a free throw that finished that game thanks to Gilbert Arenas. Arenas looked pretty comfortable. I believe he had a 4-pointer during the game. And you can tell he's in his, as they call it, the grilling hibachi cooking bag. So he's been able to keep up. And I mean, he's even mentioned it himself by saying his way of play, this type of game works to his way of playing basketball. All he's saying is as long as his knee can hold up, he'll be fine, which we can see so far he's been playing pretty good. The Killer Threes company had no chance against Killer Threes. Between Frank Sessions and Steven Jackson. Steven Jackson, I think, had 23, 24, don't quote me on that. And looked pretty good in his matchup. The Ghost Ballers won their matchup against BWX, which both teams were 1-0 coming into this game. Jamario Moon had a pretty solid game in that matchup. The Three-Headed Monsters, Rashad Lewis hit a game-winning 3, which finished off that matchup against the Aliens. You kind of got to see some sparks and shine between Greg Oden, Shannon Brown. Brandon Rush hit a couple threes within that game, and that's just kind of what it was. And finally, Power was able to beat Tri-State 51-43. Katino Mobley, 51 points in the first 2 games. He scored 28 game 1 and 23 in the second game. Nate Robinson was a little trash talkish, but for whatever reason, Mobley just kind of was like, all right, that's cool. I'm here to play the game. Let's do what we do and go from there. So props to those teams in that matchup and all that occurred. Now we're about to go ahead, and this is one of those moments where I get to say I was right. And I'm only saying that I was right just based on the circumstance. The mild, simple version of it is the award ceremony did occur. So the award show happened. For whatever reason, this was the first year I didn't watch it. And I guess, well, part of it was on when I was unable to watch it, which is understandable. But on the flip side, I guess it was one of those, I really didn't have to see it to see it. It lasted a lot longer than I expected. I believe the show was on from like 9 until almost midnight. I'm gonna say it because I can, and I believe that was what I was mentioning or getting into earlier. I like when moments occur of knowing something and kind of forecasting how it all went without unintentionally missing it. So episode 239, 11 episodes ago, I was on the show and they were kind of doing a kind of early pre-forecast of the lineups of the listings of the list of the awards. So there are 6 main awards that I focused on from my initial recording. Now I'm going to go into all of the awards, but I'm going to go into the 6 that I was choosing for. That was Coach of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved, Sixth Man, and MVP. Out of all 6 of those, I got 4 of them right. Most Improved, I missed because I thought D'Angelo Russell got it. They probably may not have looked at him as an option only because, I mean, he made the All-Star team, but I know they don't merit the playoffs into it, but I feel like sometimes that does play into it. I don't know. And for Coach of the Year, I had Michael Malone from Denver, and Mike Budenholzer won. But as far as Rookie of the Year, I was right on Luka Doncic. Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert, no surprise. 6-man Lou Williams, something crazy would have had to happen for him not to win. And obviously MVP was Giannis. And a lot, I even said it during that show. As much as I'm a Harden fan, as much as I'm a Rockets fan, a supporter, Giannis had a better year. A lot of people, and I'm going to talk about this on my show because this is why I love this platform. And I wish I had more people on to talk about this in its entirety and in its unpack. If you personally felt that Harden deserved the award, I have no knock against that. My knock or my conflict comes on the basis of you really have to look at the resume of the stats and the gameplay throughout the duration of the season. Harden is a valuable player by far for the Rockets. Based on the NBA is going to trend according to what's seen at what point. Your finalists were Giannis, Paul George, and James Harden. Paul George had a good season. Like, let's not get it twisted, because if I remember correctly, I believe Paul George was second in scoring. I don't want to say this, but I'll say it because it's my show. Giannis, it may be a while before we see Giannis win another MVP. The NBA has changed the way the award is distributed. And I don't want to get into that too intense, but I just can tell with certain awards, it transitions according to what the league feels fit for that year. Because a lot of times, there was one point in the NBA when if you looked at each season, you could say hands down LeBron was MVP every year. But they have to distribute and make it a fair base of an award. I don't know. I don't want to make it like it's a participation award thing, because it's not. But I just noticed how it was a very special transition for a lot of the awards, at least that I've been able to tell. Like early on this coming season, I'm making this an early prediction on episode 250. I don't think Zion's going to win Rookie of the Year. And it's not that he's not going to have a good season. I just know for a fact that he's going to have a hard time in New Orleans. And we're going to get into that soon after everything kind of clears up and we go into the deep dive of everything that has happened. There were some other awards that were given out during the All-Star, during the NBA awards ceremony. And I'll go ahead and get into a couple of them. John Horst, who was with the Bucks, won the NBA Executive of the Year. Mike Conley won both the Teammate of the Year and the NBA Sportsmanship Awards. Bradley Beal got the Community Assist Award. Derrick Rose got Highlight Moment of the Year. Lifetime Achievement, which I think was great, was Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Their rivalry, second to none. Like you're not going to get any rivalries like that in basketball now. I feel as though there was a close chance of getting it with Kobe and LeBron, but we didn't see it only because Kobe they were in two separate eras of basketball, and that made it kind of tough to really get them to see them go against each other, especially with them being in two different positions. And that's where the Jordan, Kobe, LeBron discussion becomes like very different, because Jordan and Kobe were both two guards, whereas LeBron was a three. So it wasn't, it's a different position, different role. The Sager Strong Award went to Robin Roberts. Her story was really touching. Anyone who may or may not know about this award, it's basically an award that was created based on Craig Sager and his fight and everything that he supported and represented with basketball. And most of all, everyone joked about it, but he had the most insane and outrageous jackets or outfits and suits in basketball. The NBA teams. They gave the All NBA first team, All Rookie team. All Rookie team was kind of expected, and the All Defensive team. Shockingly, Draymond Green was not first team on our All Defensive, but hey, shit happens. So this is gonna be a hard. I'm gonna do my best to not be long-winded at this point of the podcast, but I can't make any promises only because there is a lot to discuss in regards to what happened last night. As many of you may or may not be aware, teams were given the option to talk to players were given the option to talk to teams on the 29th. So the 29th arrives, players can kind of look at what they want to do, set up meetings, etc., etc. Well, all of that occurred, and on yesterday, on the 30th, it was at 6 p.m., teams could openly announce, or players could openly announce, where they were looking to sign. It was kind of almost like doing a verbal commit, and then you actually signing a contract a couple days later. At 5 o'clock, between my watch, between TV, just what I was watching at the moment, so many stories broke. The big story was Kemba, and it was already kind of leaked or kind of announced anyway. Kemba went to Boston. So obviously, as we expected, if Kemba goes to Boston, that obviously means that Kyrie is out. Kyrie left. Kyrie made it clear he wanted to be sent off. The option that was looked at and everyone was speculating was New York. Didn't go to New York. He's going to New York, but he's going to another part of New York known as Brooklyn. So he went to the Brooklyn Nets. That then generates the question of what Durant was going to do. Durant made his announcement. They mentioned he was going to make his announcement at about 5 o'clock. A couple of minutes, it might have been 3 minutes to 5 Eastern time, he announced that he was going to go to Brooklyn as well. The story leaked later on, and now I'm freestyling with a lot of this because I have a free agency news tab in the podcast. It's in the show notes. You can read over it, and it'll give you everybody that moved. And I'm going to use that a little bit for some of the moves because some moves I'm still trying to process them even happening, but we'll get to that in a second. A story was then mentioned afterward that the reason that he didn't go to New York was that they weren't going to give him the max deal that he wanted. James Dolan wasn't willing to pay out due to the Achilles injury. They were concerned about that. In their defense, I kind of get that. Didn't mean for that. If you heard that scratch or that screech of a voice, my bad. But yeah, they didn't. New York wasn't willing to come up off that. Porzingis signed a max deal to stay with Dallas. Harrison Barnes took a solid deal to stay in Sacramento because no one in their right mind was going to give him any maximum. He wasn't going to get max anything. He was going to get a decent payout, but not a decent payout to be on some, let's sign you and keep you on our team and see what happens. The big name that's still waiting, and I am going to be the first to say he's either going to do it on the day before the 4th of July or it's going to be either that Friday or on Saturday. Kawhi has not mentioned where he's going yet. A lot of people are thinking it's going to be either the Clippers or the Lakers. The Clippers were an option. At one point, there was the status or mention that Kawhi and Durant were going to be in package deals. Obviously, it was Durant and Kyrie, so I guess they got their K's confused. That's neither here nor there. Then it was Kawhi and Jimmy Butler were linked in being a package deal. That then transcended when a late article hit that Jimmy Butler was going to be part of a sign and trade to go to Miami. Tobias Harris got paid by Philadelphia. Al Horford went to Philly. Ricky Rubio went to Phoenix, which I guess it's a good deal. I don't know really anything. I mean, having Rubio and Booker as a backcourt would be interesting. Hopefully Josh Jackson can have a better role this year, because he really has been kind of a disappearing act in my personal opinion. Biggest move that occurred, and it's likely going to be a trade. It may be a sign and trade. They haven't really confirmed this as of yet. But D'Angelo Russell is going to Golden State. Now, how that impacts their lineup becomes interesting, only because here it is now. You have Klay Thompson, who's going to be out for most of this season. By playoffs, if he comes back, you're looking at, they showed a projected starting five where it would be Steph, Klay, D'Angelo, Draymond Green, and Damian Jones, who I didn't even know won, I believe, 2 championships with the team. Kevin Looney is they're looking at trying to get a deal in place to get him out. There was talk with the Rockets of Eric Gordon and Clint Capella being moved around. And I'm supposed to give a story and I'm slipping. My bad, y'all. So let's get in. Let's unpack for a minute before I continue with the trades or the free agency talk. Back when I was in middle school, leading up to high school, I was close friends to a guy who me and him we were close, like really cool. We're not friends now, but life happens. It's not a big deal. When we were kicking it and hanging out, we called ourselves the free agents, because it was more so the free agent reference in the fact that we didn't really deal with any people. We really didn't deal with other people to that extent. So it's kind of just us, and we, like, if you saw me, you saw him, vice versa. And it was a good little rock out, good little roll for a minute. And obviously, like I said, life happens, things change. We haven't talked in a while, but it's almost an interesting theory, because even with my friends now, like, we're the cool kids or we're like the squad. But if it's just me on my solo dolo, just kind of chilling, I'm a free agent. And I always have carried myself as such, because I'm open. And this sounds nasty, but whatever. I'm available on the market, and I'm just like, hey, whoever comes along that's worthwhile, cool, come on through. Let's kick it. Let's make it happen. And that's kind of been the script and the way it's worked out ever since. So yeah, I want to get that story before I forget. Let's see. Kemba, they confirmed Kemba was going to the Celtics. They did not mention what's going to happen. Cousins is still out there. Everyone was surprised that Middleton got a big contract, but Middleton made the All-Star team, and I believe he was an All-NBA team. I think he was either third. I want to say third All-NBA. Damian Lillard did sign a Supermax contract with a 5-year contract with the 4th year as a player option. That's going to get interesting when you're looking at 2023, because we'll see how that all plays out. JJ Redick is joining the Pelicans. Julius Randle. So now this is where the Knicks part gets funny. So the Knicks initial process before the season, well, not even before the season ended, before we got to the finals, because I believe they did the lottery picks in the semifinals. Their objective was the Knicks get the first pick, Knicks get Zion, they push and work some things out. You get Durant to come in, you get Kyrie to come in. Lottery happens, Knicks get the 3rd pick. First pick goes to the Pelicans. Pelicans go through a crazy trade. Long story less long. You end up Zion's going to the Pelicans. RJ Barrett is a Knick Great. But RJ Barrett be able to bring in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant? The answer was no. Thanks to this, and someone posted this in our in my sports, as one of my friends posted this, who's part of a sports group that I'm with, and as soon as he put it, I said, this is the cover photo. It has to be the cover photo, and it fit to a T for what it did. So you had all of this occur, all of this went down, and so the Knicks, did everything that they did. And in the end, they ended up getting Julius Randle, Taj Gibson, Bobby Portis. There are rumors that have circulated, which is still kind of, that was back on the 26th, but if it hasn't happened by now, I don't see it. About Vince possibly coming to New York. And maybe Carmelo coming back, reaching, but hey, you never know. Now this is where it gets interesting, and I forgot to mention this. So as we all know, the Lakers have been quiet. Lakers haven't done any talks, any moves, anything spectacular as of yet. The big three, which I talked about earlier, they were showing in one of the videos where Ricky Davis, I'm assuming, is close to Kawhi, and announced that there's a chance that his camp, they're looking to sign with LA. Now, of course, you got to take media and take news as you can, but that's where, as a creator, you have to know what's real and what's okay. This is just you pulling and reaching for the story out of the clouds. Until we actually have heard or it's mentioned as an announcement, I'm kind of taking that one a little lightly, at least right now. So that's kind of, how could I forget? So now, and I'm, because I mentioned the lineup and I didn't think about it. It's safe to say that Iguodala's Breakfast Club interview might have cost him his role or his place with Golden State. He was traded to Memphis. Now, I'm going to talk about that and then I'll get into stuff. Whenever you say or do something in a sport, it may not seem like a lot in the immediate moment, but if it's presented or shared to the extent where it puts more information out there that did not need to be presented, that becomes a problem. And in this case, there's no exception to that because the league, most of the teams have a pretty tight-knit story or a pretty tight-knit process. Prime example, Spurs, Rudy Gay was, brought back to the team, but it wasn't a big announcement. Like, the whole situation with Kawhi should not have been as big as it was, especially with him being more of a private, quiet, laid-back kind of guy. Because let's face it, and no one's going to come out and say this, but it needs to be announced and or presented. Kawhi doesn't go down due to that ankle injury, we wouldn't be taught. I don't know if we would see this championship run that we saw as far as 3 out of 4 for Golden State. I don't know. Now I'm not a analyst to that extreme, but if you really look at how basketball played out at that time, San Antonio was the one team that could give Golden State a tough time, especially with Kawhi Leonard, playing the way he was. So it causes a very, and I'm bringing Kawhi into this conversation in this portion of it because if you look at I know I was talking about teams being quiet, but this is going to be something with LA that makes it interesting. If LA gets Kawhi. And you have Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James. You can get anybody that can handle the ball. Patrick Beverly. I believe the Lakers got Patrick Beverly, I want to say. Because I don't want to throw any names wildly. If I'm not mistaken, Otto Porter is going to Brooklyn as well. Let's see what we got. Oh, okay. Pat Beverly is staying, so he's staying with the Clippers. So yeah, I mean it's a battle right now. So this is everything today. Okay, yeah, this is okay. So this is the hot day. All right, Pelicans. Yeah, so I'm segueing a little bit, but I'm gonna mention off some more names, some more options that have happened, and we'll kind of dive into them as needed. Klay Thompson did agree to a 5-year deal. Hezonja is going to Portland. Gerald Green will be staying with the Rockets for another year. Ed Davis is going to the Jazz. Derek Favors went to the Pelicans. Reggie Bullock is going to be joining the Knicks. He wanted to join the Knicks because that was a good starting place for him. Nets get Temple. Thomas Bryant, who's with the Wizards, is staying. They really wanted to make sure they locked that deal up. George Hill is staying with the Bucks. A lot of people didn't understand why Rodney Hood is staying with the Blazers. To be honest, it's a matter of what team is offering you money or what team is really going to utilize you in their lineup. Jeremy Lamb from I believe he was with the Hornets, is going to the Pacers. Amino is going to the Magic. He was with the Clippers for a while. He went to Portland for a couple years and really was a key role player. So him going to Orlando is big. Trevor Ariza is going to Sacramento. And the Bucks did a sign and trade of Brogdon where he's going to the Pacers. I'll make sure I didn't miss anybody. Oh, how can I forget? Derrick Rose has a 2-year deal with the Pistons. Rozier going to the Hornets. Lopez staying with the Bucks. And that's mainly it right now. Those are all of the big names and everything that's happened that was the big movement of everybody about to go everywhere. And that's basically what happened. So we're just now waiting for other guys who are still free agents to see what they're going to do. Like what team is going to pick them up. A lot of teams are going to pick up players at veteran minimum. I'm going to be honest, but that's just how basketball has normally played out by default. So that is mostly everything that I had for sports. And I don't intend or didn't intend to make it a short segment, but I wanted to go ahead and just get into it and go from there. Now we're going to get into stuff. Stuff is going to be very, very thin, but very substance based. And I'll explain in a minute why I say that. First up was, I feel like a horrible person for not doing it because usually I do watch, but this was the first year that I was not able to sit and really watch games done quick like I normally do. And I've really and truly felt bad for not watching it, only because there were a lot of games that I was willing to want to sit down to look at. And there was just also the factor of I honestly just couldn't get to all of it the way that I wanted to this year. And it happens, but just this year it was really, really, I don't know if it was that I was just that busy or if it was just, I don't know. But the total, so one part of this story that makes why I'm sharing this is because So I'll give a quick deep dive of Games Done Quick. Games Done Quick is basically a speed run event that happens. They do 2 of them a year. One is done in January, typically right after MagFest, and the other one is done at the end of June in Minnesota, I believe. I might be wrong, but don't quote me on that. And they usually call it like Summer Games Done Quick or something like that. Like I know one is like Awesome Games Done Quick and the other one is Summer Games Done Quick. And this one is the Summer Games Done Quick. And they do it for Doctors Without Borders. And they just have everyone, people donate whatever they're able to donate, and they'll do announcements based on those donations. Now, while they're doing this, there are actual gamers who are speed running actual games at the venue. So they speed run different games. The list of games, because I did have that initially showing, that's what you're going to see in the show notes, is the actual games that were speed ran. Legend of Zelda, all of the various Legends of Zelda, Super Mario World, Bomberman 64, Tetris Effect, Octopath Traveler, Half-Life, Quake, Invictus, Banjo-Kazooie, Mario Kart Double Dash, and I'm naming everything kind of in backwards order, Dead Rising, Looney Tunes, StarCraft Remastered, quite a few games that got speed run. They were speed running. Now, in the process of speed running these games, like I said, people are donating money. There's normally the big hit is when they reach 1 million. Well, this year when they did the speed run event, they hit 1 million at a quicker time than they ever had with any other speed race. I believe it was on Thursday. I don't know why I want to say Thursday, but I feel like it was Tuesday. Like they reached 1 million quick, and it was a new record for them reaching that goal. So shout outs to them, shout out to the event. The total amount that was donated was $3,007,355.50, which is great. Like gamers, when it comes to stuff that we do, we show up and we show out. So I'm glad for that. I was enjoying that big time and I valued it tremendously. I am still in shock, but I've also accepted that we're here. It has been 10 years since the King of Pop, one of most of our music idols, Michael Jackson, passed. It's been 10 years in that time period. So I'm segueing into this, or going into this portion, and mentioning that my friend Shudney Patrice, I'm hoping I get names right. She is the Loop That Bitch Queen. I gotta give when I say music, I give music credit where it's due. She shows up and shows out without question. And she did a 2-part playlist of some songs by Michael Jackson. It's not the songs that were chosen, it's the instrumentals and the lead ups. Because a lot of the songs that she did had a lot of build ups. It is a great listen, a great playthrough. I finished part 1 finally. And part 2 I'm working on now. And I will admit, part 2 has been like, I'm into it. So I've been keeping up and catching my listens here and there. But the links for both of those blogs, the podcast, for both of those streams are in the show notes, and you'll definitely want to give them a listen. Like part 1 and part 2, it was massive. That's all I could say. So that's kind of where we are. Like that's my music breakdown, and I'm gonna give that listen a go. I will get into my music sesh because it was rough. I will say that much. Don't cry, don't fret, but hey, if you do, I understand. One of the members of the Apple family has decided it is time to move on. He has been working with them for 30 years. He's made a lot of the products that were relevant at one point in Apple, and we'll get into that. But Jony Ive is leaving Apple. He's going to be forming his own design firm. Jonathan Ive will depart from the company, bringing an end to a tenure spent crafting some of technology's most influential products, including the iPhone. Ive, who has led Apple's design team since 1996, is leaving to form an independent designing company, which will count Apple among its primary clients. The company is called Loveform, and Ive will be joined by famed designer Mark Newson on the new venture. Despite stepping down from his executive position, Ive and Apple both claim he will still work on a range of projects with Apple. Apple will continue to benefit from Jony's talents by working directly with him on exclusive projects and through the ongoing work of the brilliant and passionate design team he's built. After so many years working closely together, I'm happy that our relationship continues to evolve, and I look forward to working with Jony long into the future. This was written part of a press release by Tim Cook. He's one of the most esteemed individual designers and has worked on products with including a wide range of Macs, the iPod, iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, and more. He also had a hand in the company's spaceship Apple Park campus and establishing the look and feel of Apple retail stores. And they're just kind of going into like what he's done and how he's been part of the company and stuff like that. So, Jony Ive, you don't see him at keynotes, but you hear and know about him being part of a keynote. So I definitely have, kept track of his backstory. And I mean, he's been like, if you think of Apple, he's not like a main face or a main name, but he's part of the brand. So you don't ignore Apple without thinking of Jony Ive. Like a lot of people, we know Tim Cook. And it's tough. Like even, and I'll say this only because I can. If we were to go back and have Steve Jobs be involved with a lot of what's going on in the Apple community, there are a lot of things I feel would be done different. I don't feel, and this is my personal opinion, I don't feel like the headphone jack would have been as big of a deal. I think he would have found a way to work around that. Because we're now, and I learned this more than ever with watching games on stream, on Twitch. If you put a game out and there are problems or bugs or issues or concerns with that game, all you got to do is let it go through the gaming carousel and let folks, pick it apart and talk about it. And you'll get all the feedback you need on whether or not this game is worth buying or worth entertaining or whatever the case may be. And that was basically what transitioned through in technology. Technology, the consumer's input or feedback wasn't really embraced like you would think, which happens, but it just was tough to look at or witness until it, we really look at it now and how it's been done. But anyway, so Jony Ive leaving Apple, making his own business, still going to be working with Apple, but just kind of from a distance and doing his own thing, which, hey, that's what it's all about at the end of the day, is doing what you feel is right for you and your possible brand and or business. All right, before we get into our pass of the week, ass of the week, and pass the message, I am going to talk about music. And this is why I love having my podcast, because I can say whatever I want in whatever way I feel. Cancel culture is going to kill music before music kills music. We listen to artists, an artist does something crazy. We don't let them live it down, and we're like, you know what? I'm not listening to them. I'm not supporting them. And as a consumer, you have that right. So I get it. I don't downplay or knock it, because everyone, and then it's also the factor of what people are and aren't willing to listen to. I bring that up and I say that because I listened to Daniel Caesar's album. Thought it was a pretty good album. I guess I missed the memo that I wasn't supposed to listen to it for comments he made, which I missed because I don't keep up with a lot of that stuff. It's so much information and news that goes on or that occurs. But he did make a good album. From my listen, I listened to that pretty thorough. I was supposed to listen to Chris Brown, but I got about 80. I won't even say 85. I got about probably 12 or 13 tracks into Chris Brown's album. Still need to like really listen to it and give it like that true Brian listen that I'm used to. But all in all, Indigo is a pretty good album from what I've listened to so far. I did not listen to Mustard's album. I believe that was mentioned. I know Joe Budden mentioned it on his podcast. Didn't have a chance to give that a spin. I'm gonna try to get that into my listening queue. I'm not gonna lie, like these past few days, it's been kind of a sporadic listen. Like I know, Acid Rap came. I'm wanting to make sure I'm not behind. I feel like Acid Rain or Acid Rap was like a redo of an album. I don't know. Like he re-brought that album out. I could be wrong. It might be a new album, but I have not listened to Chance's album, Acid Rap. I'm gonna give that a listen. And this is something that, like, I was having this conversation with someone and I guess I can talk about this now. Yesterday was my first official. Yesterday was a lot of firsts. It was my first podcast meetup here in Richmond, and I enjoyed it. Based on the amount of people who did attend and learning where everyone was with their podcast experience, which was valued heavily because it taught me, even with me being where I am, I still have a ways to grow and I have a ways to go, which I'm all about. Like I'm all about just wanting to increase and succeed in what I'm doing. So in that regard, I was fine. And I mean, I got a lot of information. I was able to get a lot of shows that I'm going to add to my queue of listening. And not, because the tough part is listening to podcasts while not speed listening. And I know my thing now is learning how to keep up with what's what in media, but keep up with what's what in media that you're enjoying and not just keeping up just to keep up. It's a big difference whether you realize it or not. I say all that just saying it as the podcast event was very embracing. It was very open-minded. It was very fluid. I valued that. What I valued more was the live podcast, because that was I had never seen a live podcast period. And I genuinely can say I would attend another one if the opportunity came. That's how much I was open to the event and to the activity. And what made it funny, what made it intriguing for me more than anything was they were taking, I think I even mentioned it to him after the show. I said he basically took a section of what I do on my podcast, which is Ass of the Week, and made it just one solid segment of just different people doing stupid stuff and running with the story. And I loved it because they're comedians, and also it's like you gotta make it stand out and make it work for what you're doing. And that's something that is important with the branding and with the process of the business. and I didn't talk about this. I know I rambled off everybody as far as free agency. Everything's going to kind of be weird to process right now for multiple reasons. And I know I'm like segueing back to basketball, but I want to talk about this. Even with Durant going to Brooklyn, it doesn't mean anything because he's not playing this season. This year, we already know it's not a championship year. Kyrie is going to carry that team on his back, and you're going to see how different it is in Brooklyn. That being said, 2020-2021 season, I'm telling you, you're going to have a lot of teams that are going to be pushing and that are going to work hard to make it clear that they are front runners for winning. If Kawhi, like I said, if Kawhi goes to LA and you get Golden State to compete with LA, you got a good series on your hands. And it's also not barring injuries and things of that sort, because we're going to hear, oh, but the player was out, they didn't have this person, they didn't win without, and it's just like, look, if the game is being played, and I feel like that's where people who watch basketball bug me the most. It's like these are the same people who used to play basketball and will understand if you're not playing at 100%, you chose not to play at 100%. Or if you can't play, you're not playing because you don't want to risk your health. It's the same thing. The difference for us was we weren't getting paid for it. They're getting a paycheck. Like, they getting paid. So that's just something to keep in mind and to factor in with that whole process. But yeah, like, music listening's been good. The podcast event was great. I did get to see my friend Elijah Mindset. He did a good set, some music, some performing, and that was dope. I'm hoping to go back to the dark room again and catch some content, because that is, until before this podcast, I was very nonchalant and very non-confident about what I did. Now I look at myself and I realize I'm a content creator. This is creating content. This is something that I have always felt was a way of getting my message out there. And someone asked me this at the event, and I guess it's kind of why I did podcasting. When I initially did, hook up a webcam, sit it in front of you, get an angle, talk to people, I was okay with it, but I didn't like YouTube that much. So I jumped away from YouTube and I got into podcasting, and it's better for me because of what you have to do to get like the good shot of the good sound. So I know it was like a long tangent, but I wanted to at least get into that before I forget. I normally do Ass of the Week first and then Pass of the Week, but I'm doing Pass of the Week first only because this is still an unreal story, because I did watch a couple of his videos. I didn't keep up with him personally, but I do know of his content. Daniel Desmond Amofa, who most people know as Atika, has died at the age of 29. He had been found. He had been missing since June 19th. They found his belongings, and there was all of his belongings were found after he did a video called "I'm Sorry." He posted it to a different channel, and he was, he spoke about his mental health while walking through Manhattan. He had experienced similar thoughts in previous public statements, like videos and tweets, over the past 8 months. There was a point, because I do remember that they had, pointed out how there was a lot of legal involvement with him personally. Let's see. He was best known for his Nintendo content. He was very, very affectionate and very close to Super Smash Bros. He would post videos. He began posting videos that seemed to suggest suicidal ideation last fall. In October 2018, he reportedly uploaded pornography to his primary YouTube channel in blatant disregard of the platform policies, resulting in the deletion of content on his account. Following that incident, Amofa posted an erratic video in which he seemed to be exhibiting signs of mental unwellness and left messages on social media and internet communities that alarmed many of his followers about his safety. He continued to reference suicidal ideation in posts on platforms like Reddit and Twitter. In April, he was banned from Twitch, on which he was also an active creator, after posting anti-Semitic and homophobic content. He apparently reacted to the ban by live streaming on Instagram a police response to a call at his residence where he had allegedly been threatening self-harm. The police, dressed in riot gear, eventually entered his home. Amofa was reportedly treated at mental health facilities after both the October and April incidents. And then they give a backstory of him as a person and everything that occurred. I don't think this can go without being said how important it is to take care of your health. And it's good. I don't like that I'm sharing this story, but it's good that I'm sharing this story because the message that I'm going to pass to you all today helps with something that isn't acknowledged enough in why as a creator, it's a challenge. So I'm saying rest in peace to him, condolences to his friends, family, nearest of kin, those who knew him on a personal level. I know you all lost a great guy. As a person, he was very talented at what he did in the videos that I did see of him. It just sucks with losing him. And this is why, even though I personally don't share the link or the video, the phone number anymore in the podcast, but I always want people to understand, like, if you need help, there is a way to get started. Like, there's a crisis text line now. You can text the word START to 741-741, and that's START, START. You can also call the National Suicide Prevention Line at 1-800-273-8255. No one, as tough as it is, it's the hardest thing to see or know someone lose their life due to them taking their own life. And it's very hard to process that. So get help while you can. That's my number one thing. I've shared this on the show before. If I haven't, I'll share it now. If you need to go to counseling, don't feel pride driven not to go because you're worried about how it's going to affect you or impact you. When in reality, if you need it, utilize it. If most jobs offer free complimentary meetings for this, so just keep that in mind. And that's really my best message or my best input I can provide towards that. Our ass of the week this week is a weird yet strange, and each one of them are weird, but this one is kind of I don't know what was going on. So any of you may or may not, as many of you are aware, the Toronto Raptors won the NBA championship. Now, in sporting fashion, a team that wins a championship, if it's basketball, then kids who are in that area are like, hey, I want to go play basketball. Well, they were the public authorities in Toronto decided to take down courts in Toronto. They, and I'll read the story and it'll kind of put it all into perspective. Toronto won its first NBA title earlier this month. It was unfortunate then that Toronto city officials have been taking rims down from basketball courts around the city. Now, mind you, they're not taking down the basket itself. They just took the rims off of the courts. After receiving numerous noise complaints about basketball games in parks being played until after midnight, the city made the decision to enforce park rules banning playing from 6 p.m. to 9 a.m. But a single viral video of the takedown seems to have prompted change from the city. And they show a 15-second clip of a guy who's coming around with a little device that just kind of unscrews and takes the rim off of the court. And that's it. The video, which was played nearly 1 million times by Thursday morning, was seen by Mayor John Tory, who responded Wednesday night. The city should be putting basketball nets up, not pulling them down. I've delivered that message to our park staff tonight, and they agree. Did not mean to do that. We should absolutely be encouraging kids to play in our city. Hours later, the city released a statement announcing the removal process would be stopped. Not all basketball courts and parks have their hoops removed in the evening. Some, just those in a close proximity to homes. The city as part of its statement. But removing basketball hoops at 6 p.m., as we saw in a video posted last night, is not reasonable. Effective immediately, the city, in consultation with Mayor Tory's office, has suspended the removal of basketball hoops from its parks so residents can continue to enjoy a game of basketball in the evening. He then reported and addressed the situation further. I think we're going to have to establish the principle that as long as there's daylight, as many of these parks don't have lights, and so there won't be as many people playing basketball in the dark. As long as these places are there for public use, as long as we have kids who want to play basketball, we want them to be doing that. We want them to be engaged in that kind of positive, fun activity, especially in the summer months, and we're going to opt in favor of that. And this was written by Mayor Tory. And there's a little bit more information in regards to this. So as the week goes to them for that, because they made a from the hip move and really didn't think of how dumb it looked to take down rims when this is some type of a recreational activity. I know in my neighborhood now, there aren't as many courts as there used to be. And then even with there being courts, not everybody's playing basketball. Like it was one point where it was a court that I used to go to and play all the time. The court turned into, well, we out here just rolling dice and just chilling. And it's like, but that's not what these were. You know what? It's cool. Don't worry about it. I'll go home. Cause I don't need, I'm just out here to get a little sweat and go home anyway. But it's amazing how the dynamic shifts in the most minuscule ways in various instances. And this is no exception. And I hate that I'm at my hour point, but we're getting ready to wrap up. This is, and I just finished the blog about being present. So if you haven't checked that out, bright82.wordpress.com, definitely check that blog out. This is going to be, I'm just going to mention the 3 things that you should do to work on this. Why you really need to quiet your mind and how to do it. Our mind goes a mile a minute. For some people, it is a mile a second. Because there are a lot of things that you're thinking about. I know for me personally, I just started taking medicine to help me with sleeping, to just properly just be out and get rest, because I don't rest properly. Most days I will go to sleep, and if I'm up, I'm usually up by 9 or 10 by nature, because it's just a habit. And sometimes that's, if I go to sleep at 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning, if I'm up at 9 or 10, then I got my 8 hours, so I'm cool. But a lot of times it's kind of viewed as you don't have to get 8 hours anymore. That's kind of a change, and I get all of that, and that's great. But we don't value that. And this almost is a tie-in of when people say, be his peace, be her peace. I need peace of mind and all. This is where this all goes. Peace and quiet is a precious commodity these days, but sometimes we're our own worst enemies. How many times have you gone to bed only to relive your day in your head or make a mental to-do list for tomorrow? Or maybe you've carved out a few minutes to relax and been hijacked by a barrage of thoughts or worries. Finding calm in a world of chaos can be a tall order. Americans suffer from a case of ADD. This is written by Victor Davidge, who wrote 8-Minute Meditation, Quiet Your Mind, Change Your Life. With technology, economic pressures, work, and family, it's impossible to be on top of everything, and it's upsetting our natural balance. This overload and overwhelm often lead to anxiety, fear, and depression. And while you can't check out of life and avoid responsibility, you can approach things in a gentler way. Meditation is one of the quickest tools for finding inner peace and quiet. It's an Eastern tool for Western results. So I'm gonna, this article is really helpful, but I'm gonna share the 3 things and do with these as you will. Number 1, get into a good position. Take a deep breath and sigh it out. Sit comfortably and relax your body as much as you can. We have these visions of needing to have a full lotus position. It is not necessary. Number 2, get in touch with your breathing. Close your eyes and find a place in your body where you feel your breath most prominently. Davidge says it could be your abdomen, diaphragm, or under your nostrils. Start to focus your attention in a gentle way to your breathing. This will be your anchor point. Number 3, which is the hardest, and I am going to talk about this as the message that I'm going to pass to you all. Detach from your thoughts. Within a few seconds, distractions like thoughts, body sensations, or images will start to bubble up. Realize that this is normal and gently return to the anchor point. Continue this for 8 minutes. To keep track of the time and set the tone, you can use an app such as Davici's Simply 8 or Buddhify. Davichi says most people find morning to be a quiet and convenient time of day to meditate. Others do it before bed to help them sleep. You can meditate during your lunch break or any other time that works for you. There is just one rule. Keep a daily, consistent appointment with your meditation practice, just like brushing your teeth. It's a wonderful tool to help, but space between you and the world's distractions. So I'm going to be honest, because I've talked about this on the show before. I started meditation. Meditation and mindfulness and just disconnect has been the greatest thing I've done. I don't know what happened in June. It might have been the case in May a little bit, but I didn't meditate as often as I normally do. As strange as it might seem, you begin to see a difference in your movement and in your mindset and in your space when you remove something of that magnitude from your routine. And now I'm working to get that back into place, and I'm looking at where I normally set up to do it. And it's an achievable task. I just need to do it. So I'm going to set that first step, which is, and like I said, out of these 3, detaching from your thoughts is scary. It is very, very scary. And I want to be close enough to tell y'all it's okay to be scared of detaching from your mind. Our mind wanders. Our visions wander. There are things that we want to do, but we have to be realistic in what we're trying to do and what we want to get done. I was given a challenge. Today is the first. If you want to do this, you're welcome to do so. We have 6 months remaining in 2019. And I did mine based on this. I'm kind of going to remix it a little bit. I want you to write down 6 things, 6 realistic expectations or goals of yourself for the remainder of the year. Write them down and explicitly be real with you as to what you're looking for. You don't have to share it with me, but I want you to do it for yourself. And I want you to find a way to make those things that you work on be your motivation and your inspiration to be a better you. I'm working on this myself because as much as I love podcasting, I want podcasting to flourish for me in a way that others don't even understand. So my message that I'm passing is detach, take time, like value time, because when time is gone, you can't get it back. And sometimes we don't realize that until it's too late. So I hope everyone has enjoyed this show. This has been a great episode for 250. 50 shows away, 300. I don't know what's coming. I don't know what I'm going to do, how it's going to come up. But it'll probably be less than a year from now, because if we're doing the show every week, it's close. I'm still in limbo of whether I'm going to do the the Everyday in August show. I'm not sure yet. But I am looking at my calendar and I'm trying to think if I'm going to be doing another podcast this week or if I'm going to push it to next Sunday for the sake of what's coming. So we'll see. I think I know what I'm going to end up doing, but I'm just going to kind of let it play itself out. But that's all I got. Those are our topics. If you are looking to invest in a microphone, I didn't mention this earlier, you can get, I use the Blue Yeti. If you are a mixer option, you do have other alternatives or ways of getting your sound and your podcast quality to be top notch. Just keep in mind, people come for two things: the content and the audio. If you have good content and horrible audio, it's going to show. If you have good audio but no content or disorganized content, it's going to be noticed. So that's all I got. Until next time, y'all take care. Pat signing out. Peace. Another episode is in the books. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. As I always share, if you'd like to get into podcasting, you can check out Spreaker.com. And if you're looking to invest in a microphone or if you're looking to genuinely start with recording, I use the Blue Yeti microphone, but you may prefer to do the Samson Meteor. Just know that if it's your craft and it's something that you're meant to do it and do it well. That's my main thing to tell people about 2019. Do it and be reliable. Y'all take it easy.